and welcome to a special edition of Guitar Tales. Once in a while, we get a guest who is nationally, if not internationally known. Tonight's one of those nights. We are beyond excited to have Bully Ray on tonight. You might know him as Bubba Ray Dudley, formerly of the WWE, internationally famous, a great entertainer, a great speaker. He's on Sirius XM. And before we get to him, real quickly, we want to thank our great, great, great friends over in Asbury Park, Confections of a Rock Star. Oh my God, if you want a delicious snack, a decadent snack, go there. And as I pet my dog so he doesn't bark, I can never forget about their little doggy treats. Their pupcakes, coming up. There we go, the pupcakes. And our friends Andy's Burgers, who operate right there in Asbury Park. They are absolutely fantastic. We'll scoot over a really cool icon for them. Shoot over there. That looks like a very angry burger. Very angry. But we have such a special show tonight. And we're going to talk about a lot of performance. And we do this a lot on Guitar Tales. We talk about things where different areas of vocation overlap with each other with the same issues. And we have a super articulate guest who is just a fabulous entertainer. Scott, why don't you come in and then we'll bring our guest in.
Thank you. I didn't know if you were talking about me or not. First thing
no, not at all.
I have known Mr. Ray Dudley for, 12 years, 15 years, something like that. Positive guy, amazing work ethic. And you would say to yourself, why the hell would we have a professional wrestler on a show like this? And the reason is, there, like you said, there's things that overlap performance-wise. And I'm going to tell a story tonight where he actually inspired me to be a better performer, which he probably doesn't even know anything about, but he did. And maybe we should just bring him on and get started.
Absolutely.
Listen to that gravelly, beautiful voice of his.
So is that my big introduction?
Yeah,
it is. You dig it?
So let's bring him on. Hi guys.
I like it.
Oh, I have one more thing I forgot.
Yeah.
I bought this today. This big gigantic bottle of Gentleman Jack.
And
I wanted to start the show with that noise.
The sound of freshness.
Here it goes. Well, I can't even open it.
There you go.
Oh, I like
hear
that.
it. It's like the 3 clicks. It's like unlocking, like the lock of doom.
Yeah,
it is.
By the time you
it
get
is.
to the bottom of that, you're probably doing something bad. But yeah, Gentleman Jack. I'm a big fan of Gentleman Jack.
I know. You're the one that turned me on to it by slamming it onto the bar somewhere at somebody's house or something.
I used to actually grab people by the head and pull their, like, especially with chicks, I would just pull their hair back and force them to open their mouth and just pour Gentleman Jack down their throat. Hi.
Our friend,
my name's
I
Bubba.
like that.
Our friend Phil's done that many times.
I was once, I want to say the Deerfield in Newark, Delaware, they had a barber's chair where you would lean back and it would just pour drinks into your mouth. And I got kicked out of there for doing it too many times.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Scott, let me hear this story, how I inspired you to be a better human being.
Well, it was a very, very rainy Sunday morning. And the Smoking Jacks were supposed to play Martell's. And I was just really raining hard. So I'm in my pajamas. I'm home with the wife and the puppies. And we're having a great time. I'm cooking pancakes. And they're like, the gig's not canceled. I go, what do you mean it's not canceled? It's pouring fucking rain outside. We can curse on the show. And she goes, no. He's like, no, it's on. So I begrudgingly got in the shower, got ready, put all my shit in the car, drove over there in the pouring rain, set up my stuff in the pouring rain. And then finally the rain kind of went away, but it was too late. I was already in a terrible mood. I didn't want to be there at all. And you showed up around this first set, and I was fucking up like every song. I wasn't my normal self. You could tell right away something was wrong. And after the set was done, you said, I don't want to tell you how to do your job or anything, but you're terrible today. What is going on with you? The rain. Like, listen to me. Every gig you play, you should not take for granted. There are people here to see you perform. You should do a good job. Put all that behind you. Don't, bring the drama to work and just get the job done. And the next 2 sets were fantastic. So cool. I thank you for that.
Yeah. No, dude.
And I mean, I know that, you've been on in the ring a bunch of times, and not every day is a great day.
Never cheat the people that came to see you.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
I
you
really
never know
do.
who's going to be there to see you.
And check this out. So that we learned that in wrestling from a very young age, especially if you're broken into the wrestling business the right way. And the veterans that I came up around, always taught me that. I remember wrestling in front of 7 people at the
Right.
Polish American Club in Piscataway.
Yeah.
But I'll
Wow.
be damned if I didn't give those 7 people the best show I could possibly give them at that time in my career. And, throughout the time in wrestling, sometimes you're wrestling in front of 7, sometimes you're wrestling in front of 70,000. You give them the best show. And because your show is about music and rock and roll, and we're talking today about how pro wrestling and rock and roll crosses over, I was having a conversation with Bret Michaels from Poison one day.
Right.
And the guys in Poison were very big fans of me and my brother Devon, the Dudley Boyz.
Right.
And I've seen Poison so many times. And one night we're talking before a show at the House of Blues in Orlando, and he somehow we got to the smaller venues. We were talking about the smaller venue.
Right.
It was like, yeah, buddy, there's about 1,500 people here tonight, but I'm going to give those 1,500 people the absolute, best show that they ever saw. Never cheat the people. And I was like, wow, coming up in pro wrestling, we always learn that also. It's very easy to walk out into an arena. Scott, you walked out into Martell's. It was raining. You didn't want to be there, and there weren't a lot of people there.
Right.
It's very easy to have the wind taken out of your sails immediately. It's very easy for me to walk into a 20,000 seat arena and only see 5,000 people and have the wind taken out of my sails immediately. Bret Michaels has been through it. I remember going to Motley Crue's first reunion tour when Vince had come back to the band.
Right.
And I'd been used to seeing Motley Crue in front of 20,000 people every single time I saw them. Motley Crue was my favorite band. So now all of a sudden there I am, Nassau Coliseum, first show back in, whatever 5 years or 6 years they were split up, and I am raring to go as a fan, but the place is only half sold out. And that took the wind out of my sails.
Right.
As a fan, I was like, wow, maybe this is not the cool place to be anymore. Maybe my band is not on the top of the world. So it's easy to go out there and get discouraged, but that second you get discouraged is when you have to hit that next gear, because those people that did show up on that rainy Sunday to Martell's and didn't let the rain affect their good time, they're counting on you to do that even better.
And I love this because one of the things we talk about on the show all the time is how all these themes cross into so many different careers. In my day life, I'm a lawyer. And there have been times when, I'll handle big cases, but sometimes I'll do a favor for someone with a tiny little traffic ticket. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do my best and I'm going to work hard for them. I have a client, she told me recently, because she said I'm a fighter, she plays the Rocky theme song. She put it on her phone. So when I call her, the Rocky theme song comes on, but it makes her feel good, and then it makes us feel good, and then it goes back and forth. So whether it's music, pro wrestling, lawyering, Scott does a great job for everyone in the day as a pharmacist. And when he gives them their good energy, they feel a little better. Maybe it helps them get better if they're not feeling well.
Yeah, it's hard not to have a puss on some days.
Yeah.
But if you've been to some CVS's and Walgreens, the guys stand back there like a moot, like a mope, as my father would say.
Yeah.
No, that's also because you guys are dealing with a million stupid questions.
Yep, it's true.
Listen, I get it. And Dave, you just brought up about doing a favor for somebody, and whatever it is, like this show today, how this all came together, right? I didn't even ask Scott, like, well, how many people listen to your show and blah, blah, blah. I didn't give a shit. Scott's my friend. He asked me to come on the show at about 12 o'clock. And I said, okay, we'll do it. I'm heard on Sirius XM radio, 4 days a week in the mornings, 2 days a week at night.
I'm surprised you have a voice left today.
Yeah.
I blew it out about 2 weeks ago, guys. I blew it out bad, too. The super sexy swinging sounds of my sandpapery smooth voice for all the women out there to listen and love. I think I'm going to start doing audiobooks. I'm going to start doing audiobooks for frustrated housewives. I'm going to start reading like romance novels, like Fabio novels in this voice.
Just get a prenup. Get yourself a prenup.
Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to read to them. Just so they can hear, like, you know, he ran his hand up her breast, and as he started to slowly embrace her and passionately kiss her. Like, I think chicks will dig it, but what do I know? Anyway,
I want in on that.
Well, it's funny, when we were in the virtual green room here, the second you said, "Can you hear me?" I'm like, holy shit, this guy has a good voice.
Yeah, but that's old news to me. I mean, and everybody else that knows our friend here.
It's crazy how people think we have good voices, but when we hear the sound of our own voice, we're like, oh my God, I sound awful. You remember in the movie Stripes when Bill Murray says, he goes, chicks dig me because I seldom wear underwear. Like, chicks dig me because I got a nice voice.
I literally just saw a documentary about Caddyshack. I think it's on like Prime Video or something. Fantastic.
There you go. Can't go wrong with Caddyshack.
Murray had 6 days to shoot all that stuff. Just 6 days.
Really?
And didn't hardly have a script for him. Anyway, so one of the common denominators between your job and what the musicians do, this music that they play for you guys come on is a gigantic part of the personas that you portray. Do the guys get to pick their own songs, or do they have to secure the rights, or how does that all work?
So I'll start from the beginning. Like, when you're coming up, when you first begin in the pro wrestling business, and you're just getting in your car, driving all over the United States, looking for work wherever you can find it. If you're lucky enough to get a shot, the promoter will be like, all right, what's your entrance music? And normally you just pick something, you know, that you were a fan of, like, I don't know, Shout at the Devil, or Back in Black, or Welcome to the Jungle, or Cowboys from Hell. So then I remember when I got my first real big break in '95, and I started with a company called ECW. I became part of an act called the Dudley Brothers, the Dudley Boyz, 9 brothers who were all inbred but came together to form this Hanson Brothers-esque unit, a la the movie Slapshot, in a pro wrestling company. And our entrance music was Highway to Hell from AC/DC. And people loved it. They'd be up on their feet. They'd be, you know, stomping their feet, you know, pumping their fists.
Sure.
But when me and my brother Devon broke away from the rest of the group, and we became some of the worst bad guys in the history of pro wrestling, the very first thing I did was take the music away. Because the minute you hear the opening riffs to Highway to Hell, it's uplifting, and you're bobbing your head and you're tapping your foot, and it's a happy beat. Well, I didn't want anything to be happy about our act. Thus, I stripped the music away.
So there was no music at all?
There was no music at all.
Wow.
Our music was the music of the fans booing us.
I love that.
When we came out. And we were probably modern day, past 30 years, the only original act to not come out to music.
Interesting.
Then once we got to the WWE does things in-house.
Okay.
And they came up with entrance music for us. There was 2 different songs that we had over the years. But interestingly enough, the WWE had come out with a CD. I think it was called Forced Entry or some name like that. And there was a track on the CD that the WWE licensed or owned the music to. Called Bombshell by a band called Power Man 5000.
I love the name.
Power Man 5000 was fronted by a dude named Spider. Spider, the brother of Rob Zombie.
Wow.
Now this song was so catchy. And me and my brother were good guys at the time, so I was like, this is the perfect entrance music.
Right.
Like, if you guys get a chance, or any of your listeners get a chance, go check out Power Man 5000. The name of the song is Bombshell. And our entrance music, the very first thing you hear are line rockets hitting the stage and giant explosions going off, much like bombs went off.
Man, oh man! Uh-oh! Watch out, incoming! The Rock and The Undertaker tonight on the same team, Big Kane and Chris Benoit. Both later tonight, we're apparently going to find out who the #1 contender is for the Rock's WWE title.
The following tag team content.
So it was a perfect marriage for our entrance music our entrance, and it worked out very well. So yes, music is a huge part of professional wrestling.
I was just watching the Monday Night Raw show from the other day, and CM Punk came out with Cult of Personality and put on my radar. I started playing on the guitar the next day. I said, boy, that's a great song. But it just gets everybody charged up.
Now, what does that do to you? So when you're marching out there, when you did have music, or when you didn't for that matter, how would that affect and help your ability to perform?
Well, for me, it was that like when I stripped away the music, I knew that was the right thing for the act at the time. So it didn't
Yeah.
bother me not having music. But the music is really important. And it was doubly important to me because the entrance music gave me a taste of the only other thing I wanted to be in life other than a pro wrestler, which was
A
a
rock
rock
star.
star.
Right.
Which you really were as a pro wrestler, though.
But I really wanted to be a rock star. But
Right.
Meatloaf had cornered the market on 300-pound frontman, so he stole my gimmick.
That is great. That is
So
great.
I always wanted to be a rock star, and I played different instruments. I played the piano, I played the trumpet, the French horn. I wanted to learn how to play the drums. I wanted to learn how to play the bass. I just never got around to it, and I just don't have the patience to learn these things anymore. Dude, if I played bass in a band, I would be the Gene Simmons, Nicky Six of the greatest rock and roll band in the world. But yeah, the music was important because it allowed me to channel my inner rock star while I went to the wrestling ring, and it helped
Yeah.
me get energized. It was like a shot of adrenaline, and it helped the people get pumped up too.
And they,
By the way, I'm
Seth.
thoroughly considering kicking the bass player that you guys have out of the smoking jackets. I'm gonna kick him out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna play bass, but I'm not really gonna play bass. I'm just gonna stand on stage with you guys. There's gonna
Use
be another
tracks.
guy off stage.
Oh,
really
okay. So
good.
that's been done before. I think Italian guys did it. Cyrano de Bergerac. Right?
I'm just gonna
I
Milli
like that.
Vanilli the whole thing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope. It's
Nothing
all
wrong
fake.
with that at all.
I dig that.
Listen, I don't want to put down Al Such and Bon Jovi, but we know, someone else was playing his shit for a long time. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I had a thought and I forgot what it was. See what happens when you're old and you
That's
have
what
one
happens when you
small
make
shot
fun
of
of the
Gentleman
dead.
Jack.
That's right.
I should add Fortissimo. And I wouldn't
There
be
you
so
go.
bad.
It's good stuff.
That's right. So let me ask you this. Well, so you've turned this amazing career into your Sirius XM gig. So tell us how that happened.
I've always wanted to be involved in radio. I don't know why, but radio always interested me.
Yeah.
Going back to when I was a kid, listening to, 70, I think it was 77 on the AM dial WABC.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
forget, I always forget the name of the disc jockey that was on back in the day. I can remember him. He would go, "Hello, love," or something like that. So I was
Well,
always into the
trying to-
personalities.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
now I know you got me thinking. It's not.
I know
Dan
you get
Ingram,
me
is it?
too. Now, I once, when I was with a little kid is with my parents, we had WNBC on.
Sure.
Ron Lundy.
Ron Lundy.
Wow,
It's
look at that.
Ron Lundy.
Scott.
Hello,
My brain
love.
works.
Yeah, it does.
Excellent.
The
excellent.
weird
Ding,
thing
ding, ding. Circle gets the square. Johnny, tell him
That's
what
right.
he's won. Now, here's the thing. Back in the day, what did you really win? You could either win a Dinty Moore beef stew,
Can't beat that.
rice-a-roni, or turtle wax.
Right.
Now, if you won the turtle wax, how much turtle wax did you win? You won a year's supply of turtle wax, right?
Or
It's like
Eskimo
one-
pies.
But how many times a month or a year do you actually wax your car?
Yeah, I know. That's you're getting one can if you're lucky. Maybe you're getting
Exactly.
half a can.
So you're
A
getting
year's-
lifetime supply.
A year's supply of turtle wax was basically one can.
Oh, you're saying
I
the opposite.
I wonder if it was fractional ownership, and when they gave you the can, you had to share it with the last 5 other people who won it for that year.
And if you won the Dinty Moore beef stew and you actually ate it, you gained 3 pounds from the sodium alone.
Mm.
Oh my
And the
god!
rice-a-roni was the San Francisco treat. So there's
is
your
a San
Price is
Francisco
Right
treat.
trivia for today.
I love
like
the
it.
Price is Right. When you were working on your persona, because rock stars have personas. Like, let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure that Gene Simmons didn't come out spitting blood and shooting fire right away. I mean,
Out of the
that
womb
came
like that.
years later, and I'm
Yeah.
always coming up with stupid things to do with the smoking jackets, as you've seen. Be it, lighted marching snare or kazoo or ray gun or, all this stupid stuff. So you got to start the ground level and work your way up, and you keep changing your persona and keep adding on to it, taking things away. What inspires you? Come up with this stuff on your own? You're inspired by someone else?
It's trial and error.
See what works.
You go out there and you see what works, and you have to be in tune with the act and in tune with the audience, see what they respond to, see what they don't respond to. And as I moved forward in the wrestling industry, I borrowed, ripped off, plagiarized from rock and roll if I could. Because if
Yeah.
it worked in rock and roll, I knew it would work in pro wrestling. And I would, when you design a wrestling match, when you're putting a wrestling match together, it's like a play. And our
Okay.
play doesn't take place on a Broadway stage, it takes place in a wrestling ring. So every night when I'm coming up with a new Broadway play, I have to come up with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
Where the
right.
talent in the ring has to come up with a beginning, a middle, and the end. You got to come up with a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, just
And a
like
bridge.
music.
Yeah.
And a solo too.
And a
Yeah.
solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to have a good beginning, middle, and end. And to me, the #1 band in the entire world that you could follow for a great beginning, middle, and end, who took you on the best roller coaster ride of all time, which is the greatest rock and roll band in the world, the most entertaining rock and roll band on the planet. You wanted the best, you got the best.
Kiss.
Hottest band in the
Yeah.
land, Kiss.
Yep.
And about 3 or 4 years ago, got the opportunity to interview Gene in studio.
Nice.
Gene came in and he was extremely nice, extremely cordial. I used my girlfriend at the time as bait. I did. I really did. Like, I told her, listen, I want you to sit right here, because when he walks into the studio, you're the first person he's going to see. And Gene Simmons, I said, his eyes are going to light up because he's been talking to dudes all day long in every single radio station that he's visited.
Right.
And they're all kissing his ass about how much they love Kiss. All Gene wants to do is talk to girls. So he's going to see you. His eyes are going to light up. And lo and behold, Gene walks in. He saw her and he's like, oh my God. And, he turned into a different person. So we had him for a long time. And after the interview was over, I said to him, Gene, I just want to tell you something. I said, I know you've heard it all, but you've never heard this.
Yeah.
I said, I've performed in front of 100,000 people just like you have. I said, but I want you to know that when I put my matches together, I patterned them after a Kiss song. After a
Kiss concert,
a
Yeah.
Kiss
Right.
show. My matches open up with Detroit Rock City. We go into Shout It Out Loud,
Yep.
Beth, rock and roll all night. You got to have Beth in there. You got to bring them down
Yeah,
just
you're
a
right.
little bit to
Yeah.
kick them back up at the
I
for the
feel you.
finish
Okay.
for rock and roll
Yeah.
all night. We spit blood, we blow pyro, thank you, good night. We're the Dudley Boyz. And when I told him this story, this smile came over Gene's face, and I knew in that instant, in that man's 50-year plus career,
Yep.
he had never heard anything like that before.
That's amazing.
He
That
went
is.
into his pocket and he handed me a $10 bill. He was joking around and thanks for saying something nice about me. I said, Gene, I got a nephew. And I said, and the first thing I ever give to my nephew is going to be your Kistery box set. And I happened to have the box set with me. And I said, if you don't mind, can you sign it for my nephew? He signed the box set and he signed the $10 bill and he put it in the box set.
Nice.
And he
love
said
that.
to me, make sure you let your nephew know that the first piece of music he ever buys on his own was bought for him by Gene Simmons.
Oh,
That's a
I love
fantastic
that.
story.
That is a
You've had
great
other
story.
rock icons on your show too, haven't you?
This past year, well, in 2024, I had the opportunity to interview Motley Crue in
Right.
studio, all
That's what I was
4
thinking.
guys,
Yeah.
which was a
Great.
huge deal for me. There's only 2 people in all of Sirius XM who got to interview Motley Crue this year, myself and Eddie Trunk.
Oh, nice.
Eddie, is, Hair Nation, Ozzy's
Yeah.
Boneyard,
Right.
all,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
metal show. You got to kind of sit in front of Eddie
Right.
because he's the guy.
Yeah.
With me, somehow it came together, and the opportunity, the guys are into this. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And it's one of the high points of my radio career, getting to sit down and chat with Motley Crue and tell them the story about how I first saw them on a magazine cover when I was like 12.
Yeah.
And showing my mother, and my mother said, Mark, don't you ever listen to that band Motley Crue, or I'll beat you up, or I'll hit you.
Terrible stuff.
I love that.
And that's how I opened the interview, and I told them the story, and they were laughing their asses off, and it was a fun time, and I was very appreciative to be able to interview those guys.
Let's switch gears a little bit too. So now you know that a band is a band. It's a band of a bunch of people. Obviously, you have a tag team partner, but you also can be in the ring with multiple people. How did the other guys and girls that do their thing affect your craft? So in other words, are you worried about that they don't have their shit together? You're worried about hurting them, hurting yourself? There's always one. You brought up, a weak member in a band could just derail the whole goddamn thing.
We take each other's lives into our own hands every single night. And there was a time in my career where I was wrestling 300 nights a year.
Really?
Year after year after year with no break.
Holy shit.
You turn into a machine, an absolute performing athletic machine. Your body goes completely numb because it turns into a giant callus between the travel all over the world. I mean, guys, it was nothing for me to be in New York on Monday,
Right.
Dallas on Tuesday, LA on Wednesday, Japan on Friday, Australia on Sunday, back to New York on Tuesday morning.
Wow.
That was a week for us sometimes because of the crazy, crazy schedule, the perpetual state of touring. Do you guys know what the longest rock and roll tour of all time was? Or in the top 3, let's just say.
Well,
we're about to get
know.
stumped.
Bon Jovi's had some pretty long tours, 6 months, but I can't think of anything.
Longest rock and roll tour of all time, I believe, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion, 2.5 years out on the road.
Can you imagine?
That's
how long I was out on the road for?
How many?
20.
Wow.
Of those 20 years, I spent 10 of those years, 300 nights a year.
My son, when he was a kid, like a lot of us dreamers, he goes, I want to be a rock and roll star. We put that thought out there. I go, let me tell you something. Look at that guy's tour shirt. See all those dates? 30th, 31st, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 9th. That's your job. You're on a plane traveling to all those places. Look at all those dates. You're going to be away from your family for a very long time. And it could be a problem. And then
with
troubles of the road.
It's not like sports where there's an off season. There is
Right.
no off season. You're in a perpetual state of movement. You're in a perpetual state of performing every single night, all over the world. That's our playing field is the entire world,
Planet. Yeah.
the entire planet.
So we talked about on this show was, when certain bands, I don't remember who we were talking to, but when they're getting ready to do a tour, you practice. And at some point, the tour becomes the practice. So for you have to be in good shape, both visually and literally because of all the things you're doing. When you're on that kind of schedule, 300 dates a year, are you hitting the gym in between, or is your workout the performance?
I didn't go to the gym for probably the first half of my career.
Really?
My heaviest, I was 402 pounds, never went to the gym in my life. I don't even know if I even knew a guy named Jim. I was just a gifted athlete and performer.
Wow.
It wasn't until probably 2012, and my career started in 92. I hit in 95. And I don't think until 2012 did I get myself in real serious shape, because me and my partner had split up.
Okay.
We had accomplished everything you could possibly accomplish in the world of tag team wrestling. We'd won every championship on the planet you can win. There was legitimately nothing left for us to do that we had not done twice over. We're the most decorated tag team in the history of the wrestling business. We're more decorated than the Road Warriors, who are the greatest tag team in the history of the wrestling business. So we're sitting there and like, well, we're not going to retire. What are we going to do? We're going to go so we said, we'll go our separate ways. And I knew that I needed to if I wanted to wake people up and get them to notice me overnight, I had to get in different shape.
Interesting.
And that's what I did. I became, like a gym rat and started going to the gym. But to answer the question you both basically asked, when you're a trained pro,
right,
you kind of just know. And I was actually having this conversation with good friend Snake Sabo from Skid Row.
Yep.
Probably 2 weeks ago, about just getting in the ring with somebody you've never met, you've never touched, you've never talked to, and you meet in the middle of the ring and the bell rings and all of a sudden you got to touch and you got to dance.
Yeah.
When you're a good trained pro, you just know. One person takes the lead, the other follows, you go with the flow, you go with the movement, you listen, and we just have our way of performing together. Much like Snake said that he'd been on stage hundreds of times with guys he's never met, never played with, never nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, you just fall into
there's magic,
and then the magic happens because you're trained professionals. The way wrestling and rock and roll crosses over is insane.
That really is.
Yeah, that's what got me thinking that it just happens like that. So what happens if you get in the ring with somebody that's terrible and you're worried, or you just have an awful gig? You just fight through it?
If you get in the ring with somebody who's terrible, you have to remember what you're doing there in the first place. You're there to entertain, you're there to perform. So if a guy legitimately is terrible and he sucks, if I eat him up, that's not going to be very entertaining for the audience. I have to scale it back immediately to a level that I know he can perform with me at. And then it's my responsibility to cover up all of his deficiencies.
Yeah.
And hide his negatives.
Like when
that's
I played,
what being a professional is in wrestling.
So when we used to play Spirit of the Radio with my old band, and I couldn't play the lead, but the other guy could, I'd shut the volume and pretend, and he would cover it. So something like that.
Sometimes the sound guy is your best friend too.
Smoke and mirrors has been used in magic, have been used in music, and has been used in wrestling since day one.
I bet, yeah.
Listen, before Milli Vanilli got exposed, they were all smoke and mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
selling millions of records.
I've been fortunate enough to be on stage while Ozzy was performing, and there's the dude right off stage who plays the synthesizer and sings with Ozzy to thicken Ozzy's sound. Smoke and mirrors. I don't give a shit. It makes the performance better.
It makes the audience feel better. They have a greater experience.
You know, on Kiss's last tour, the thing was, oh, well, they're playing with backing tracks or Paul's voice is dubbed over. What? I don't care. I'm going to see a show. I want to hear the band sound the best that they possibly can. Like I hear so many people bitch and complain about, oh, well, he's not really singing, or, oh, they're not really playing their instruments. Other than going to see Frankie Valli these days.
Which we did a show about.
I think everybody is singing as best that they can. And I think they're playing as best as they can. But if there's a backtrack or back vocals to sweeten it and make it sound good, and I paid $300 for a ticket, go right ahead. I want to see the show. I'm not going to complain because when I go to see David Copperfield, I know that the elephant doesn't really fucking disappear. But I give him a standing ovation anyway.
Right.
But we had Ace on. Ace is, not using overdubs. He's not the Ace he was back in the 70s, obviously. But he's Ace Frehley.
Yeah. Which,
You-
by the
you-
way, I practiced for days to not fuck up his name.
And I just did.
I wanted so. It's not Frehley. It's Frehley. It's not Frehley.
Frehley.
Yeah,
And
we got to write on
and
the
you can
show.
where can you find the correct pronunciation of Ace's name in a song?
Ooh, are you going to stump us twice in one
Oh,
show?
This
If
is
you
a
would have known, you would have answered it already.
question.
You're right.
Kiss
That's
question.
right.
Ace
You're lucky I know
pronounces
Ace had 6 strings on his guitar.
Ace pronounces his name the correct way in a song.
Ooh,
No clue. That was-
Okay, I'll help you guys. It's not Kiss. It's Frehley's Comet.
he didn't. Back in the New York Groove, he didn't say his name on that.
In the song
Frehley's Comet.
Rock Soldiers, there's the lyric in there where the devil is sitting in the passenger seat in my automobile, and he said, "Hey, Frehley, Frehley, let's not be silly. There's a life out there to steal." So you actually
Look at you.
you hear Ace
Could have had a
pronounce
contest,
his
see that?
name correctly. Rock Soldiers off of Frehley's Comet, off of
Frehley's
the Rock
Comet, yeah.
Soldiers album.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's
Interesting.
pretty cool.
We got to have a whole nother
We can.
Kiss show or something.
We did. Well, Scott was not. I did rock and roll all night at Martell's with Scott's band. I got to sit in this summer and do that.
You're that
song.
Scott's band.
You like that Scott's band? That's
Dave.
right.
Dave, I'm gonna one up you. You ready?
Yeah.
Because if you're saying it's Scott's band, whenever Scott's band plays rock and roll,
Not
all
Tommy's
night,
band, Scott's band.
Whenever Scott's band plays rock and roll all night,
Yeah.
I jump on stage and just start singing. I don't ask for permission, and they don't kick me off stage.
Who is gonna kick you off stage? Right.
It's the best.
So I have a silly little wrestling story to share with you.
Sure.
All right. So about 1990, I'm at the DMV in Voorhees. I'm a law student, and I'm online just waiting to renew my license or something like that. And someone basically wraps my neck in a tree trunk that turned out to be his arm. It was a buddy of mine from the University of Delaware. It was Raven. And
Okay.
I went to
You're
Delaware
friends with
him.
Raven?
I'm friends with Raven.
Sorry to hear that.
I found that out tonight myself.
He was a piece of work. He was beyond crazy freshman year in college, and I haven't talked to him in decades, but he went from a skin. He's not a big dude, as I'm sure you know, but he was barely bigger than me in college, and I'm not at all a big guy. And then all of a sudden, I had arms as thick as my legs, and he just randomly saw me and threw me in a headlock in the middle of the DMV.
So would you like to hear my Raven story?
I would love to.
So Raven is the guy that came up with the Dudley name and the Dudley act.
Oh no.
It was his original idea. And the Dudleys were part of Raven's flock.
I
They were
know about
his
Raven's flock.
They were his original henchmen. I wasn't an original member. I eventually had come in. So I met Raven in
Yeah.
ECW. And by the time I
Yeah.
had gotten there, he was well established,
Okay.
deep into the Raven persona and gimmick, and
Yeah.
kind of larger than life. I was a young wrestler, and
Yeah.
I didn't get much time to talk to him other than hello and goodbye. And he was in character like 24/7.
Oh, was he really?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In wrestling we call living the gimmick.
Gotcha.
Kind of like Gigi Allen was Gigi Allen 24 hours a day. Raven was Raven 24 hours a day. So I'm still living with my parents at the time.
Okay.
And one morning, the phone in my home rings at 5 a.m.
Okay.
Wakes my mom up, wakes my dad up. And I remember my mom banging on the door of my room. And she's like, "Mark, there's a Raven on the phone." And I went instantly panicked because I'm like, oh my God, I'm still a young wrestler.
Yeah.
This is Raven calling me at home. What did I do wrong? Like all these bad things are going through my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello? And he's like, Bubba, just want to let you know that I just watched one of your matches. You're the shits.
Ooh.
No. I didn't say you're the shit, which is good. He said you're the shits.
Oh,
which
no.
in wrestling, when you add an S to it,
That's
it
not
means
good.
you suck.
Oh, no.
So he said, you're the shits, but you're entertaining, and I think you got a future.
All
He was
right.
telling me that as a wrestler, I wasn't cutting it, but I had an entertaining persona, and it would get me far.
Interesting.
I had went on to become very good friends with Raven. I still know him to this day. Had him on Busted Open a couple of months ago, talking about his new documentary that's coming out about his life in the next couple of months. It
I'd
looks
love to see that.
so intriguing.
Dave, you better be featured in that documentary. I'm not going to watch.
Dave, if you knew him and you know his life and his life, especially his lifestyle, this looks like a must-see documentary. It really takes you behind the scenes into the life and times of a pro wrestler, a brilliant wrestling mind, a drug addict, a story about redemption. So check it out.
He's got a 144 IQ or something like that. Super smart guy.
Legit Mensa.
Yeah. His
High
dad was a writer for the National Enquirer, an editor at the National Enquirer.
Absolutely.
I was very good friends with him freshman year. We hung out all the time, you know, drank together, all the regular stuff. And he was a wild man. I mean, he would go out like not just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like the rest of us. Random Monday and Tuesday nights, he was getting drunk, hopping on pickup trucks from locals, just finding them on Main Street and hopping on. He would disappear on us, but a great guy, really great guy.
And I went to school with a guy who went to the Killer Kowalski School of Wrestling in Rhode Island or something, and he was all excited. I'm going to be on television. He was on UHF. Gary Apollonia. I watched the match. I'm like, you were terrible. The guy was throwing you all over the place because I was just a throw pillow.
You know, in wrestling, we call that enhancement talent. And the enhancement talent is important because they make the bigger stars look good.
Right.
And I know plenty of guys who spent 30 years in professional wrestling making a decent living being enhancement talent.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'll equate it. Okay, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but Bob Kulick. Bob Kulick would be like enhancement talent in pro wrestling because he played on all the tracks because he was an excellent guitarist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But never good enough to be on stage.
Right. Yeah.
So these wrestlers were good enough to make others look good, but never good enough to be the star of the show.
Our show's loaded with studio musicians and guys you never heard of that have Grammys, that have Emmys, that have... they're making a career in music and you don't even know who the hell they are. They're not household names. It doesn't matter.
Who sound great on the album, but you would never think of putting them on stage.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. And I'll draw another analogy, lawyer analogy. I was once at a big firm. I worked at a very big firm for many years, and I was a nice young attorney who worked for me at the time. And one of the big bosses came up to me and he said, he'll be a good inside guy. Meaning we don't want to let him out in public to market, to go to court, but he'll contribute to the team in a way that matters.
Yeah.
I do love this theme. You know, I love the fact that, you know, all of these things that, you know, and if a young person is watching our show or listening to our show, and yes, we are on Audible and all those, so people could just listen if they want. When you have young folks who are starting a career literally in anything, we get a pro wrestler on, we get a musician on, we had Alex Scooby on. We got him on. He's an actor, but he played guitar once. So that was our reason for getting him on. But everything he talked about, it was about work ethic. It's about devotion to the people you're there to take care of. It's about appreciating the opportunity that's placed in front of you. And I love all the messaging we're getting from you because it's so positive. It really is.
Listen, the world of pro wrestling is not a very positive business.
Okay.
It's a rough business. Rock and roll is not easy either.
Yeah.
Our good personal friend, Tom Janarone, who is an entertainment attorney, who did one of my my very first WWE deal for me,
Right.
looked over the entire contract. First words out of his mouth after he read the contract was, "The only contract I've ever seen worse than this is a music business 360 deal."
Mm,
Yeah.
isn't that something?
Music and wrestling it's hard, man. It can be very negative. You have to be able to have thick skin, sift through it, keep moving forward. And here's the advice that I give to every young pro wrestler who asks me, and I have so many of them who come up to me and they're like, "Bubba, advice, advice, advice." And I have the same piece of advice for them as I do for up and coming musicians, up and coming rock stars, whatever. It's 2 words and it's very simple. Get over.
Mm-hmm.
Because and get over means do something that makes the people remember you. In wrestling, it's do a move or cut a promo or have a match where people are going to remember you. In music, write a song, do a solo, put on a stage show where people are going to remember you. The very first time we heard Eruption,
Done.
that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? You remembered who Eddie Van Halen was. The first time we listened to Kiss Alive 2,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yep.
They got over. They did something. The very first time, I'm getting goosebumps. She said, the very first time we were up at 2 a.m. watching MTV as kids, and all of a sudden that opening riff of Welcome to the Jungle came on, and you see Axl walking down Sunset. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
I know. Yeah.
There's so many moments like that musically.
And,
I think you're like people can remember where they were.
Yeah.
And even if you go to grunge, like I'm not a grunge fan, but I'll be damned if I don't remember the minute I heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and I was like, holy shit.
It's different. It's fresh. It's exciting.
Yeah.
What is this?
You're bringing something new to the table that people haven't seen before, or at least if they've seen it before, you're putting your spin on it.
When I was a 10-year-old kid, I remember I was home by myself and I was watching my parents were like out in the backyard. I'm watching my little sister in her playpen. And my cousin Joseph had just given me a cassette. And the cassette was AC/DC's Back in Black.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I put that cassette in for the first time and I pressed play. And when I heard the opening gongs, the opening bells of Hell's Bells, I was terrified.
Well, oh my God, yeah.
Terrified.
I was at a party in Lawrence Harbor when that album came. I went to an AC/DC party for that album, and my memory of it is that I met some guy who let us know that he had just gotten out of jail because he tried to kill someone with the claw end of a hammer.
All right.
And I'm listening
That's
to
a party.
AC/DC, and somehow I ended up in an arm wrestle against him, and he destroyed me. And so I have all these weird memories of this attempted murderer listening for the first time, and I love the album.
But what I remember is the record just black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it said
before,
AC/DC, but
before Metallica's
there were no
Black album, there was Back in Black.
there were no pictures of the musicians. There were no cutesy pictures of them hanging out in the streets. There were nothing. The goddamn thing was black, and I'm like, I was afraid to put the needle down.
It was so, and the funny thing is, as we look back on it now, they're nice, nerdy guys, but we didn't know that back then. They had such a hard sound.
Because the mystique was there.
Right.
Yes.
The curtain hadn't been pulled back. And unfortunately, in rock and roll and in pro wrestling, the curtain's been pulled back way too far.
Yeah.
And my best example in rock and roll about the curtain being pulled back is the first time you ever saw Kiss without the makeup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's pulling back the curtain, but it was a necessary evil at that time in their career. They had to shock the people into listening to them again. Pro wrestling, the same thing. Vince McMahon had to pull back the curtain and tell everybody, this is sports entertainment. all the physicality is real, but we're soap opera for men.
Yeah.
And he basically went out there and told you. And then all of a sudden, a guy named Steve Austin came on the scene.
Yeah.
And you have to do something
Yeah.
to get over, make the people remember you. And often young wrestlers will say, "Well, how do I get over?" And I tell them, "I don't know."
Yeah.
That's
You
for
know,
you to figure out.
Right.
it
And they'll
out
say,
yourself.
well, how did you get over? I said, I was 402 pounds. I could dance, I could juggle, and I had a stuttering problem. Is that going to work for you? And they're like, no. I said, then I don't know what's going to work for you. Go out there and do something unique and different and get over.
Yeah.
Right. The excellent example of Eruption. It just like, otherwise he would just been another countless shredder from the 80s.
It stopped
Yeah.
the music world on a dime. It had
did.
everybody listening. He did something totally different. Like, you hear a lot of people. Eddie had the best line when it came to Eruption, when they asked him about Eruption and everybody being able to play Eruption. And he was like, yeah, everybody can play Eruption, but not everybody could write Eruption.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you look at the guitar, it's completely unique. The sound
Yeah.
is completely unique. The show was full of energy with the jumping and the clothes and the whole thing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
gigantic drum set with the fire extinguishers on it.
You don't need to be the best players of your instrument
No.
No.
to be the greatest rock and roll band in the world.
Oh my God.
My
No.
father told me a million times. People don't come to see you play, they come to see you perform.
Who are
Yeah.
better musicians, Rush or Kiss?
Yeah.
Right.
Who's got
Who
the
said-
better show?
Who sells out 20,000 seat arenas every single time they play?
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
like when you go see Rush, it's such an amazing listening experience, but it's not a visual experience.
I saw Steely Dan once. I have no memory of the concert.
Because they
None.
just sat there and played their instruments.
And
Right.
they're so good. They're so good. Or I saw
Not enough.
Squeeze. Same thing. It sounded like the album, but I almost don't remember the concert.
I could never go to a Grateful Dead show. I could never go to a Fish show. I could never go to any of that piece. I can't just watch people stand on stage and play their instruments.
No.
Do
the same
something.
way.
Yeah. Now the only I did see the Grateful Dead at the Sphere, and what saved it for me was John Mayer, because I just sat there with my jaw on the ground watching this guy. I think he's the best guitar player I've ever seen in my life. So
John
that was
Mayer
a
is
little
a better guitar player than Eddie Van Halen.
for me. Yeah, for me.
All right, guys, I gotta go because that's fucking sacrilege that you just committed right there.
Wait,
As a
I
matter of
didn't
fact,
I didn't say
don't
that.
air
He
this
said it.
episode.
Guy up here.
But he was ridiculous. But you know what he doesn't bring to the table is
Personality.
anything unique. So what I liked, he could play any style and he plays it better than anyone. Would I rather listen to Eddie? Yes. Would I'm a Steve Howe fanatic from Yes, who did such amazing stuff, and I'm a Who fanatic. But Mayer, it's just insane. But he's not bringing anything new to the table. He could just do anything that other people have done, and he has some decent songs. But it was shocking to me how good he is. It was just unbelievable.
Gotcha.
I was blown
Unbelievable.
away by Mick Mars. I didn't think Mick Mars was as good as he was when I saw him live. I mean, I'm talking about younger Mick Mars.
Sure.
When he
Mick,
got sick, it was a little harder, but he was still, out there
Yeah.
doing his thing.
very underrated. I got to tell you, a guitar player and a bassist that I always admired and appreciated because they knew their role.
Okay. Yeah.
And knowing your role in a band is really important. Just like in wrestling, you got to know your role.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the star of the show. Sometimes you're the backup star of the show. But these two guys were always backup stars, and it never bothered them. And they stayed in their spot, and they knew their role.
Mm.
And I'm talking about Malcolm Young
Mm.
and Cliff Williams.
Yep.
Malcolm being the rhythm guitar player of AC/DC, Cliff Williams being the bassist. They sat in the back. They stood there in the back
Yeah.
next to Phil Rudd and his drums. They would walk up whenever there was a chorus and they'd walk back right to their spots. These guys never moved because
Yeah.
the show was always about Angus and Brian.
Yeah.
That's the show. We're just here to hold it down so the show can sound good while it's looking good also.
Yeah. And they're so fucking solid, those guys. But they're not, you're right, they're not visual performers at all.
I think I was talking to Tommy Janarone, who's the drummer in Scott's band.
Yeah. Tom's going to kick my ass over saying that.
Tom Janarone, the drummer of the
Scott's band,
Smoking Jackets.
Yeah.
We were having a discussion one time about drum solos, and he pointed out Phil Rudd, and AC/DC playing "Let There Be Rock" live. Now, when AC/DC plays "Let There Be Rock" live, it turns into a 14-minute song. Tom was saying, try to hold that beat for 14 minutes straight.
Oh my God,
and never miss. And I was like, wow, you take something so simple. Just sit here and try to tap your hand for 14 minutes straight and not miss. The muscle memory, the dexterity, the rhythm, everything that you need to have. But we don't talk about these guys.
Right.
That they sat in the back and they did their job as good as anybody else has ever done them.
It's definitely a team event, and everybody else got to put in their part. And you got to know you're absolutely right. You got to know when to lean back and when to showcase yourself.
Yep.
Well, with that, gentlemen, it's been about an hour already.
So as we wrap up today, depending on when people listen or watch us, where can we find you? What do you have coming up?
Don't find me.
We're going to stalk you, dude.
Don't look for me and don't find me. On social media, I actually have to look it up as I'm speaking. Which
here, I have it for you right here. You're
on Twitter or
Twitter.
on X, as where I like to call it, the old Twitter machine.
Yeah.
On X, I'm Bully Ray at Bully Ray 5150. On the old Instagram machine, I am Bully Ray. You can also hear me on Sirius XM, channel 156, Fight Nation, on the greatest wrestling radio show on the planet called Busted Open.
Fantastic.
We are live every single day from 9 a.m. Eastern to noon. Like I said, Sirius XM, channel 156.
I'm putting that on, dude. I'm excited to listen to that.
We are... show's going really well. So I'm on 4 days a week and 2 nights a week. I do a show called Busted Open After Dark. So things are going really well with that. I work with the WWE. I work with some of the other companies. Got a lot of great stuff going on, and currently taping a show for the A&E channel and the WWE called LFG, Legends and Future Greats, that I believe will start airing the end of February on the A&E network every Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
Be sure to plug that and share it with everybody. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart coming on tonight on short notice, since Mooch canceled on us, son of a bitch.
Wait. I wasn't your first choice.
No, we had a show set up for tonight. And he goes, I'm in Florida. I can't log in or whatever.
Okay, well, you seriously upgraded.
We did upgrade.
As much as we love Mooch, he would have been too controversial.
He has no opinions. He has no opinions about anything.
Ooh, maybe we could have got Mooch on and talked politics. That's right up his alley.
I know.
Right.
We didn't go there tonight.
Yeah.
So we know you're a huge Star Wars fan, and I have the perfect ending to our show tonight. The great Ron Bumblefoot Thal.
You're going to like this.
David, what else you want to say before we sign out of here?
Say goodnight, Gracie.
All right, man.
Good night, Gracie.
Hello, I'm Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and you're watching Guitar Tales.